What is up, motherfuckers? Today we're going to be doing a controller review. These are controllers that I personally have tested out for months on end, played a lot with them. As you may or may not know, I play a lot of Apex Legends. It's very hand intensive. It's very hard on your fingers if you play a lot. And as you get better and better, usually a new controller or something with more functionality like paddles, stuff like that, becomes important to you if you get really competitive and really into the game. Now, we're going to do the part that everybody hates about YouTube videos, and that's the intro. So make sure to like and subscribe if you like the video. If you don't like the video, like and subscribe anyways. Join the Ski Mask gang. I hope you follow for more gaming tips, more hardware tips. If you want a review on something or you think of something, drop it in the comments. Feel free to let me know what you thought about the video. I appreciate you. Now let's get into the review. So the first controllers, I think obviously I should review these. They're basic controllers, but you know what? They come with the system. If you don't have extra bread and you just want to have fun, play with the OG controllers. There's nothing wrong with it. They're great controllers. They're great controllers until you get a little bit of stick drift or the buttons start sticking. You know, they get a little sticky like this guy right here. Maybe I put some, This is the Xbox Series X controller. I haven't even used it at all. I just didn't even use it at all because I knew I wasn't going to use it. This right here is the Xbox One controller. Used this a lot before I got my Xbox Series X. And honestly, before I started playing with that controller, I hadn't been gaming in years, so just got back into it a couple years ago. Now, the reason that you want to go with a wired controller, if you're looking at getting better at a video game, a lot of things come into play when you're playing a fast-paced video game. Just to name a few, your internet speed's important. If you're hooked up via Wi-Fi or an Ethernet cable, that's important too. You want to be hooked up hardwired wherever you can. So an Ethernet cable going directly to your Xbox, whatever it is going to be much faster because there's less of an input delay. So the time it takes for the signal from your controller or whatever it might be to get to the other point is a little bit faster, which makes a difference when milliseconds count. Pretty much all the top players play with a wired controller because of the fact the input delay is reduced. The next controller I'm going to be reviewing was the first controller I got after my Xbox controller. And honestly, this was one of my favorite controllers. If you need a replacement, or if you just want to start playing with paddles, or if you just want something that's wired, this is a great controller. I would say it's kind of an upgrade, kind of along the lines of the original Xbox controller. It's cheaper than the original controllers because those I think are usually like $70 for the actual Xbox controller. This guy right here, it's the Power A Spectra Infinity Enhanced Wired Controller right there. This is the exact model. The exact model is the Power A wired controller. Now the one that I just said before that guy right there is, I guess, the newer model. I haven't bought this in a while, but it's like $5 more. These guys are $39.99 if they still have them. The one thing I like about it is you have your RGB lighting around the outside. RGB changes color. See that little ring right there? All you got to do is press that button right there and it changes color for you. Obviously, you got the standard setup, basic setup, right? Now on the back, you got a couple things. Obviously, you have your triggers and then you have settings to basically trigger stops. So what the trigger stops do is if you want to make this more or less sensitive, if you put it all the way out, it's going to make it so your triggers don't go as far. If you put it all the way in, there you go. You got full motion. The next thing I like about this is the paddles. So they're not really paddles, they're more just like buttons on the bottom of the controller. But if you're getting used to it and you're not familiar, you haven't played with paddle, this is a great way to start. Assign a couple things right there. And they don't really get in the way. So you get to grip with these two fingers and then boom, you got your paddles down here. Personally, I use the right paddle for select in Apex. Left paddle for jump, gives me a little bit of extra mobility, wall jumping and stuff. But this is an awesome controller for $39 to $45 depending on which model you get. It's great. Now the next controller I'm going to be reviewing is called the Power A Fusion Pro. So this is like the big brother of the one that we just saw. Now the difference between this is you can actually change out these thumbsticks. If these get worn out, if you want to change it for a different shape, you got a little more rounded top on this one as opposed to the indented ones on the controller. You can change out those. Now one thing that's cool, the first thing that you'll notice going from a regular Xbox controller or going from a cheaper controller to this is that this one has some weight to it. You can chuck this at somebody and you might catch a case, to be honest with you. This is going to hurt if you throw it at somebody. If you throw it at your wall, your controller is going to break and the wall is probably going to break too, to be honest. TV, for sure. Done deal. This faceplate actually comes off. literally all you got to do is find a seam and boom. Pop off that faceplate, remove whatever you want to change out, put in the new one if you know how to. Put in the new one, boom, and it's magnetic. It just pops right on there. It's got a couple magnets that holds it on. Very similar to the other one, except now you have real paddles. On this guy, you got real paddles. So the thing about this is I didn't personally like this controller for the paddles. I liked it for the feel. If you're down to pay 80 to 90 bucks, then get this controller. It's a great controller. It's gonna last you a long time. It's just that the paddles are a little bit, they're kind of in the way. For me, even if you take out these paddles, I personally don't like these paddles. So what I do, get out of here. I take those off and I would use just the bottom ones. Now the thing is, because they cover the whole bottom right here, you don't really have a space to grab onto the whole controller. So you gotta adjust a little bit and it can get in the way. Sometimes you can bump this by accident, or it just kind of messes up the rest of your grip on the controller. I love this controller. It feels great. Plays great. All in all, I like this controller. This one did start to get stick drift. I didn't really like that after spending over 70 bucks on the controller. I think it was a little bit less when I bought it, so it's less than it is now. Now it's $10 more. Besides that, you also don't get the RGB lighting. You know, for 70 or 80 bucks, it would have been kind of cool to have a little bit of RGB in here. You know what I mean? Just to add some flavor, some spice, a little bit something cool, flex on them, you know what I mean? The next controller I'm going to show you is by far my favorite so far. I've been playing with this controller for several months now. Xbox Wolverine Tournament Edition. I don't believe they have it on Amazon anymore. It was originally about 159 bucks. When I bought it, it was 100 bucks or 110 bucks. And now you can find some of them on there, but they're like used and they're not brand new, I don't think. But this guy is cool. What I like about it, so it's a wired controller, just like all the other ones pretty much. It's got a little bit of RGB flavor right here. You can remap this and change the color to it. And then what's also cool, so not only does it have its standard setup, you got the standard setup in the front, you have your triggers right here, okay, your bumpers right here, but you also have two more remappable buttons up here. And I actually use one of these. I use this one right here quite a bit, which is neat because you can reach over a little bit, click it, and then you got another button, boom. You also got the trigger adjustments right here, so you can adjust the trigger pull. And then you do have real paddles on this. They are smaller paddles, but it's nice because they're not right in your way. They're actually just right where your fingers sit. So you can still grip with these two fingers, and then you got these two for the paddles. Makes everything a lot more comfortable. So if you're a competitive player, this is an awesome controller. And so far it's held up. I don't think that I've gotten any stick drift. You know, I'm very hard on my controllers, so it's important for me for the controller to feel sturdy and work well. And that's another plus. It's very sturdy. Software is pretty easy to use when you set it up. And overall, great controller. I would give this one like a 9 out of 10. If you have the extra money, go for this controller. It's awesome. Now, a couple things I want to mention about all my controllers here is that each one of these I've put through rigorous testing, so I hope that it's helped. If you're playing a fast-paced game or you're playing a first-person shooter, you need to have access for what you need when you need it. That's why I think fast response time, paddles, remappable buttons, all of that is very important, especially if you can swap out the components for more comfortable components, etc. Super important. Thank you guys for watching that video. It means a lot to me if you watched it all the way through, even if you watched it halfway through, or even if you didn't watch it. I don't give a f, still means a lot to me. So that being said, what you're going to find on my channel, if you like this, you're going to find more reviews, you're going to find more stuff coming down the pipeline related to gameplay, tips and tricks, mainly on first-person shooters because that's what I like to play. I also stream in the evening. I hope if you like it, subscribe and catch me on the stream and catch some more videos. Thanks, guys.